G'day, my name's James Baldwin and welcome to Oz F1. It's great to have your company for this episode, our 2020 review podcast. A massive shout out to you if you've been following us all year. We've really enjoyed doing the journey with you. 2021 is going to be bigger and better, I promise. But stick with us for this podcast as we talk about our favourite moments of the year, all of the happenings with COVID and the new tracks in the driver market, and plenty more. So stick with us for this episode of Oz F1. Great to have your company here on Oz F1. Campy's a little bit preoccupied, so before we say g'day to him, it's a very big hello to you, Tommy T.
G'day.
And Campy, my man, how you doing?
Boys, how are you? Hope you had a good Christmas and New Year's and all that.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. If you're listening, it's great to have your company here in 2021, a less shit year already than 2020.
Not for our European listeners. Sounds like they're going through a bit of what we went through earlier on in the year.
There
is no hope, I can assure you of that.
Oh, good. Well, it's a very positive start to 2021 here by Thomas J. Camp. If you'd like to read more about his looking into the future, he's got a crystal ball, I'm sure. It's thomasjcamp.com.au/crystal ball. I know everything, boys. 2020 was a bit of a year. Lots of people have said on podcasts and everything, it's like, we didn't expect 2020. Well, we did, because it came after 2019. So it was a year that happened. We were very glad to have some Formula One races. And I thought in this podcast, as we reviewed everything, we should start right at the very beginning of the whole Formula One season properly. And that was the announcement that Seb Vettel wasn't going to be driving for Ferrari in 2021. So let's talk about the driver market to begin with. Tommy T. Now, if you cast your mind way back to halfway through the year before we started the season, doesn't it? We were talking at the time about, well, this is an interesting move. Surely, where is he going to go? He's probably going to start throwing Ferrari under the bus. But he ended up being the consummate general, didn't he, and professional, and stayed that course.
It was just odd to know that he wasn't going to be driving in that car the next year. I think there was three moves, wasn't there? There was Seb, Carlos, and Danny. All happened before we had a race, so it was just super weird to think about that. But I was very impressed with Seb not throwing Ferrari under the bus. We thought he would be professional, but I'm actually gobsmacked at how much he held that up, because he had every right to flame them for some of the shenanigans they were pulling. But yeah, I think we all kind of expected it was going to be a competitive team, and there was really no other option other than what is now Aston Martin. So it was kind of inevitable, really, from our point of view. It was just kind of, they needed to get their ducks in a row before they announced it.
James actually got that prediction right when he said Ferrari will be behind McLaren and they'll be behind Renault and possibly Racing Point at the start of the year too.
You can hold on, because I've got a couple of that I've got right. So just
yeah, I've got a few right too. Don't worry about that.
Campy, you change your mind every week. Of course you get one right eventually.
What's wrong with that?
Should we ask Bryony what's wrong with that?
Shane Warne does it.
And you know, when I think about Shane Warne, I think about you on the same bloody level.
Blonde tips under that beanie.
Oh.
How is your hair treatment going? No, you're right, Tommy.
No, mine's not.
Campy's also...
Tommy, that's a very aerodynamic receding hairline you got there.
Slick.
Yeah, the front of your head looks like it's been designed by Adrian Newey.
It's so shiny now. Yeah.
Had some panel beating.
Good. But you're right. So before we even started the season, we had all of this nonsense. We were all happy, weren't we, that McLaren was the right decision for Danny Rick. We spoke about this before in our proper preseason podcast, that Danny Rick had made the right decision to go to McLaren. We'd called on him to do that before he had announced. Carlos Sainz, fantastic in 2019. He did a great job. He also did a great job in 2020, to be perfectly honest, compared to Lando. He's going in a good direction. When Ferrari inevitably get their stuff together, I think we'll see him challenging Leclerc probably a little bit closely than we thought would have been at the beginning. And he departed McLaren on really good terms. He said that Zach Brown, had said that he performed above expectations. So that was good. Look, here's a good example of someone leaving the Red Bull Junior program and going in a good direction. So who knows, for someone like Pierre Gasly down the track, that might be a good thing. But of course, Danny Rick into McLaren. As I said before the podcast started, I've started watching basketball, which is good, and I've chosen my team based on the McLaren colours, so I'm going for the New York Knicks. It's specifically also why I'm drinking this beer. Nothing more than it tastes delicious and the colours are the same. But I am so excited. Campy, you just mentioned Danny Rick before in the new G'day t-shirt for McLaren. This has to be a good year for him, doesn't it?
It will be a good year. I think he's been driving impeccably over the last 2 years. I don't think he got the credit for it in the car that he was in 2019. 2020 was a spectacular season for him. Probably could have got a bit more out of it if luck had gone his way, but he's sitting very prime. He's a better driver than Lando. He's a better driver than Carlos Sainz. With a Merc in the back of that car, I don't think they'll challenge Red Bull, but I tell you what, it wouldn't surprise me if they come out and it was a Merc McLaren 1-2 for the year and Danny Rick's consistently on the podium and consistently being the driver that we know that he has been. He gets some of the success that we saw in 2014, 16 and 17 for him. So
and talk about a guy leaving a team, like what a way to leave. He was outstanding this year and he knew he was leaving, but that didn't stop him putting in and really putting Renault well ahead of where they should have been with that car. Ocon was not doing anything to help that team move forward, so Danny Rick has left that in a much better spot for Nando next year, which is, I'm sure he's stoked with.
Yeah, but the way that both teams, Red Bull and Renault, talk about Daniel Ricciardo, not only in the driver, because he's accomplished and he's good, but off track, the personality, the relationships that he is able to build really easily because of his personality, I think, and what it does for an organisation when it gets people behind you, and talk about building teams behind the driver in F1, some of the greats talk about that. Danny Ricks, I've said this before, he's as good as out of the car as anybody that has ever driven ever before.
Yeah.
So, big things him next year, or this year. I'm bloody excited, actually. Bloody get it going already.
Yeah, I'm bloody keen. Renault, sad to lose Danny Rick, and I think you're right. I mean, there's a couple of drivers this year that drove their pretty average performing cars well above where they were really in the field, especially compared to their teammates. And he's definitely one of those. I think Fernando will benefit absolutely. It's been also good for Fernando to be in the Renault camp for the last couple of months, as we've seen that uptick in terms of Danny Rick performing really well. Ocon got that second, but really, I think Danny Rick getting those 2/3 more sort of consistent for the team, and that's where they're going to be aiming for. But it's probably not going to be the case when he's in a McLaren, which is exciting for all of us, to be honest. But I'm excited to see that. I'm also excited to see Fernando Alonso back in. Seb Vettel, if you cast your mind back to 2019 when we had the, so long farewell, we're going to miss you, or 2018, I should say, and everyone's doing donuts at Abu Dhabi, and it's like Seb's like, see you when you get back.
Yeah. It was inevitable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You can't stay out of a car.
Which is good, because it sort of shuns this younger driver thing, which everyone, if you listen to this podcast, know that I have a thing against. Let's just bring every single young driver into the sport as we possibly can.
That's exactly what F1's done again this year.
No, which is just ridiculous. But anyway, Fernando coming down in the older spectrum, fantastic. Nico Hülkenberg, we have to mention this in the driver market because he wasn't really around, but he came in 3 times, as Campy told me a little bit earlier, or corrected me, I should say. Once he didn't even start because Racing Point forgot the keys. And the other 2 times he performed amazingly well. Campy.
Points in both races.
Talk to us about Hulk and his return and what that meant for the sport.
It was good. I think after his year with Danny Rick, we weren't sad. We were sad to see him go, but his results didn't warrant him a drive. When he came back, and particularly this year when we realised how good Danny was against Esteban Ocon and spanked him all year, we realised what sort of driver Nico Hülkenberg is. He's not in that bottom grade, but he's in that teetering on the top class and the middle class, that B team. Mm-hmm. And for his performances this year off the bat, body wise, neck wise, getting the muscles right, he was a superstar. And it was good to see him around the grid. I hope we see him again in future, but sadly, I think it's probably his F1 dream's probably over. I think it was between him and Perez for that Red Bull seat. And from all the rumours we heard, Max and his team actually wanted Hulk over Perez, but you can't deny what Perez was doing on track week in, week out this year. Yep. And that's ultimately what cost Hulk. Hulk
was there for 3 races, actually got to race in 2 and had 1 DNF, and still came 15th in the drivers. So there you bloody go.
Yeah, performed incredibly well. He is a star. Look, we'll miss him, but hopefully he drives something interesting next year.
In saying that, I'd prefer to see him on the grid than half the grid that's on there.
Well, I was about to say, it's interesting. It's sad that it's sad really that Hulk doesn't get a drive. Stoffel Van Dorn doesn't get a drive. Callum Ilott even doesn't get a drive. Yeah. Look at me talking about someone younger. And these people do. Now, Mick Schumacher, I will say, deserves a drive because he won F2. He did that. Fantastic. You deserve to step up. In my mind, that's acceptable. If you win Formula 3, you should step into Formula 2, which Oscar Piastri has done. If you've won Formula 2, it's like, fine. But you're not, it's like, okay, if you were the top 15 apparently in F2, then you can have access to Formula 1. No, stop that. It shouldn't work like that. Schumacher, he's in. We'll see how he does this year. It's a great name. But Mazepin...
The greatest name.
Is the greatest name. But Mazepin, come on, guys. Like, there's this whole hashtag we say no to Mazepin movement, and I don't bloody blame you. He seems like an absolute tosser, to be perfectly honest, and doesn't value add over someone like Nico Hülkenberg. I still don't get it, but that's okay. Hopefully no one talks to him next year or this year.
Well, he does value add because he brings money. So
okay. This is the key point this out, Campy, but... To be honest, if we're moving to this cost cap kind of world, does the money matter anymore? Because you can't actually spend it. I mean, it's obviously going somewhere and it's obviously paying some things and there's those exclusions from the cost cap. But there's surely a point where like all of these dudes are rich, all these dudes are bringing money. There's a point where it doesn't matter how much more than the threshold it is. So why wouldn't you take a Hulk who surely could get enough money to contribute to that team?
Yeah, but it's like George Russell. He has zero financial backing behind him. No commercial sponsors backing him. And he did it the hard way. And the fact that he got his drive in Williams based on merit, I think we're always going to see half of the grid get drives based on merit and then the other half are going to be money drivers. It's just unfortunate. But where these team owners can save money, they're going to save money. And if that's by a paid driver, so be it. I don't want to see it like that. We've got a new Concord agreement, which is supposed to disperse the funds that go around in F1 more evenly for moving into the future, so it's sustainable. So, in 3 years' time, it's going to be $130 million to run the team. I think it's horseshit because that $130 million, Ferrari's going to possibly be getting 55 to 65% of their total operating budget coming from the FIA just because they've been there too long.
Yep.
If you just cap it across and then keep the competition in the constructors and you say first gets X amount, second gets X amount, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But so obviously for these teams like Eugene Haas, who doesn't just run an F1 team, he's got IndyCar teams, he's got NASCAR teams. I believe he's got sponsors a MotoGP thing in America. I can't remember what it's called. It's not the Superbikes, but it's an American-only one. So, I mean, this guy's operating budget on top of his technologies and all the CNC stuff that they do. I mean, he's spending money, and if he can save it by putting a shit driver in and getting Mick Schumacher for all the marketing and everything that comes with that, it's probably a no-brainer from a business standpoint. But from a fan standpoint, we don't want to see it.
At least for Haas this year, they've seen there's now a Haas hub, in Ferrari. So it genuinely seems the last podcast we did, we spoke about them being the sort of the Ferrari junior proper team now. That seems definitely to be the case in this. Yep. The other person that I want to talk about who, like Hulk, was Jack Aitken, who stepped in when George Russell stepped up to Mercedes, did a great job. Also deserves to be in the grid probably for next year over someone like Mazepin, and has been reserve driver for Williams for a while. This is, apart from ripping his front wing off, if you're going to do it anywhere, do it in front of the pits, as he did, and managed to pull off. But again, another good, solid F2 performer. He'll probably stay in F2 for this year and see where he goes, but he's someone that performed very well in front of the camera as well as on track. I think that goes a long way too. So better than Latifi. If you don't mind swapping those two over, that'd be great.
And Fittipaldi had a flash and then bailed.
Who?
Yeah, exactly.
No, he did a good job, though, to be fair to him. After,
both of them did good jobs.
And that's when Haas were like, well, no, you are a reserve driver. We are going to choose you instead of Mercedes and everyone else. So,
Stoffel didn't need a drive in Mercedes.
I know.
2 years in McLaren and he shit the bed on 42 qualifying sessions against Fernando Alonso. So
I get it.
He had his chance and he stuffed it. He didn't deserve that drive in the McLaren, in the Mercedes.
So after Abu Dhabi finished, we all had a lot of time to say goodbye to Danny Kvyat, which was the worst kept secret, I think, on the grid that Tsunoda was replacing him. Really crap of Red Bull and wonderful,
released it.
Fantastic, happy culture man himself, really proving that he has literally no idea how to do things, saying that it was, in fact, Tsunoda. Shame for Kvyat that we said goodbye to him a second time. Campy, you've had sort of things to say about him all year in terms of outperforming Gasly.
Yeah, I think his season's overshadowed by Gasly's win.
Yeah.
We all jumped on this bandwagon. Gasly got a podium last year, but Kvyat got a podium too. I think out of the three drivers, Albon, Kvyat, and Gasly, in the top team, it was Danny Kvyat that was a better driver than all three of them put together. I think it's sad for him. I think he was overshadowed by Gasly. In saying that, he's had three chances at F1 now. If you don't, you've got to take your chances at some stage. Yeah. And let's get real, he hasn't been setting the circuit a lot and seeing the paddock a lot.
He's not like a Hulk in that respect where you go, given the opportunity, he would benefit. I think we kind of go, Kvyat's good, but he's never going to be that given the opportunity guy who will get podiums consistently. I just don't know if he's that. But maybe
the Red Bull environment was the wrong environment for him.
It more and more makes me think that might have something to do with it, to be honest. The more people coming out of this, leaving that young driver program and moving elsewhere and actually shining kind of suggests that.
For sure.
Imagine Kvyat in that racing point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
instead of Stroll.
Yeah.
Imagine the conversations we would have been having, because he's a better driver than Stroll, in my opinion.
Yep.
Not as good as Checo.
Yep.
But some of the performances that Kvyat would have warranted him a drive in this sport for the next 5 years. But I can see why Red Bull made the decision.
Yep. But Tsunoda, young boy from Japan, having a crack. He'll be a barrel of laughs on the radio. If you haven't watched Formula 2, him on radio on F2 is actually hilarious. He swears a hell of a lot, which is not great for the TV director, but funny for us.
He's got a mouth on him. He's a bit like Gordon Ramsay. I love what he did for the F-bomb a few years ago. Bring it back, I reckon. Come on, Yuki.
This is a lot to do with keeping Honda on board as well.
Well, isn't it? Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's what pisses me off about him.
Come on, Campy, give it to him.
Nah, look. Drivers should get their job on merit and being the best of the best, not because Honda's Japanese and they want a Japanese driver. It's great for marketing. It's great for Honda, but Honda again have pulled out for 2022. They'll be back in by the end of 2022, looking for someone to support in 2023. It's what the Japanese do.
Has to be Honda powered.
They couldn't fucking make their mind up about anything if they tried. So. Just go and jump online and look at Honda's global money making throughout. I think it was their total revenue last year was like 162 billion across all platforms. You telling me you can't bloody put in 150 million bucks to go racing and then another couple of hundred here? Give me a break. I mean, they'll be back in the sport and we'll be having the same conversation that we've had consistently over the last 2 decades about Honda. I hope Yuki Tsunoda does well.
What a sign-off.
That's not the sign-off I was expecting.
Dismount.
Thanks, Yuki. Over to you.
Good boy.
No, but Honda's done this across other sports as well.
You're right.
They've done it in this sport. They've done it in motocross. I mean, they pulled their support from a Geico, Geico Honda. Now it's gone to a Honda HRC, but they're pulling their support massively out of motorsport worldwide. And in 6 months' time, it'll be back, and that's what pisses me off.
Yeah.
In and out. They're like a giddy teenager at times, just cannot figure out what they really want.
We'll start calling Sonoda Katy Perry then. And in terms, but of course, Sonoda being there, it means Albon is not. We were told as well after Abu Dhabi that Checo indeed was replacing Albon, which was the right decision. I think Helmet obviously listened to the last podcast we did and feared being talked to by Campy, so made the right call. But
it was shirt front of him.
But yeah, sure.
A bit like Tony Abbott on
Tony Abbott, Campy. Yeah, that would have worked a treat. But it also means that obviously there's no seat for Albon. He's the reserve driver for Red Bull, which basically means goodbye. And he's going to be doing very intensive testing and support for 2022.
I actually think Albon will be back in the Red Bull fold.
You heard it here first.
If we look at the history, I think you're right.
I think he will be. They really didn't want to take Checo.
You reckon?
They left it. They love him. I don't know why. I think he'll be back in the fold.
Well, I think he will be looking at a sim for a lot of next year.
Well, he is going.
Oh, yeah, but I'm talking 2023. Checo's got 1 year, doesn't perform, he's out.
Yeah.
If he has 4 bad races in a row, Red Bull coming out saying, "Oh, look, Checo."
See, we told you.
Yeah. Everyone's like, no, see, we told you, you burnt through Danny Rick, you burnt through.
Karen Horner cannot. He can't hold himself back when he's telling us he's right.
He said our best contribution to F1 is Karen Horner.
Where's Wally? Where's Wally?
No, I actually think Karen Horner is fantastic as well. But he's racing DTM this year. Albon has made that plunge, and that's why I'm saying it might be harder to get
DTM.
But DTM's sick. Like, if you watch DTM, it's bloody great racing. It's like
going
Formula 2.
electric for 2023 too.
There you go.
Electric.
But I'm happy for Checo.
Just what we want.
Happy for Checo. It was good. It was a good result. So that sort of sums up the 2020 driver market. Of course, we had some additions of new racetracks and new and old, I should say, racetracks reappearing onto the calendar. And I'll let me run through them. We'll talk about them in a little bit more detail. Mugello, Nürburgring, Portimao, Turkey, Imola, and Bahrain 2. Boys, let's talk about Mugello first. Campy, I believe this is one of your favourite tracks of the year.
Yeah, we had what, three red flags or 2 red flags, 3 restarts on the grid. Love to see it. Lewis got the job. Lewis got the job done, unfortunately.
Sorry, Sir Lewis. Thank you to us here Lewis in the colonies. Yep.
No, he should be given a knighthood for what he's done for the sport.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, just addressing
and
properly.
his achievements in the sport as well. But for as a human being, well, he's growing on me.
Here we go.
He's growing on me after that video with Valentina. After that video with Valentino Rossi, I was like, I like this guy. Why do I like him?
Yeah, not again.
And you know what? He sold his plane. He sold his boat because he's more, he's practicing what he preaches. So
he listened to you.
No, he didn't listen to me. I think he's got his Lewis has got his own conscience and he's not a dickhead. So he's starting to grow on me, unfortunately. I hate to say it.
Yeah, that Campy is so great.
For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see the expression in my face. I love to hate Lewis Hamilton, but I think he's a good guy. Moving forward, what was I saying? What are we talking about?
2021, the year of Sir Lewis Hamilton being the good guy on Aussie.
Oh, no, we're talking about Mugello.
Oh,
Mugello.
there it is.
It's where Lance Stroll had a big crash there as well. I think Danny Rick had the best lap of his year in Q2 in qualifying from memory. And so where Danny Rick got his podium, or did he finish 4th? No, he finished 4th.
He was so close. Yep.
Should have got the podium.
It was the precursor.
Great race for me. Great race. Gasly crashed out lap 1 after his win the week before.
Yes.
Just a great track. I mean, I know it's Ferrari's, their own F1 track or their own test track in their backyard, but mate, we're
so good.
I want to see Mugello over. I see Monza. Put it that way.
Oh, that's a big call. Also, one of my favourite moments of that was George Russell in qualifying, absolutely holding it together by basically rallying
when he went off the track.
The Williams.
Yes.
And lost no time at all. That was super impressive and sad for him not to get a point in that race. Nürburgring, of course, Tommy T, the first bit of Nürburgring you liked the most. Would you like to talk about that before I bring it up?
This is Campy really liked the Nürburgring. When they first said Nürburgring, this is my naivete. I was like, sick, the whole north side, let's do this.
Yeah.
And I was very disappointed when we were just around the track.
Oh, imagine
this
that.
Sucks. That would be the best. I was like, an F1 car can't go through the car. I was like, this is ridiculous. How are they going to do this?
How to prove you haven't watched Formula 1 for a long time.
Exactly.
The defining moment for that race for me was Well, Lewis ended up getting past Bottas and winning again, unfortunately. Sorry, Sir Lewis.
Thank you.
But Valtteri had pole and he got around. He got off to a good start. Into turn one, it goes deep, and the drop-off so big into the apex that drivers were losing contact with the road on their front right, if you can imagine that. Anyway, Lewis went up the inside, Valtteri went wide, and Valtteri held the lead. That was my endearing memory of that track. I think we should go there again. But Germany and a race in Germany seems to be not the way that F1 wants to go moving forward, unfortunately.
We also had Portimao. Now, there's some speculation that the third race in the calendar for 2021 might be Portimao. It might be Turkey. We don't really know yet. It's TBC, which was my favourite racetrack last year. But Portimao...
What country was that?
Portimao, Portugal, delivered really good results as well. And Campy, okay then, now that you've done that face, you tell me your favourite part of Portugal.
I don't remember any of it.
Good. Tommy T?
I remember Turkey. Nah. I remember Turkey because that was the wet.
Portimao.
I like the idea of being
Danny Rick podiumed.
Oh. Yeah, it wasn't memorable though.
Danny Rick podium.
I know. So I'm trying to get you people to remember stuff. Ridiculous. Hey guys, can you please prepare for this podcast? Yeah, sure. What happened in 2020?
I can tell you more about the Oz Grand Prix in 2020 than any other race throughout the year.
Let's talk about Turkey, Campy. Talk to us about Turkey. Is this a track that you'd like to see on the calendar for 2021?
No.
Okay, good. Jeez, this is going well. Tommy T?
No, I didn't fancy Turkey, to be honest.
All right, let's do third Italy, Imola. Now,
interesting.
It was a dud.
Yeah, I think Campy, you picked
too
this.
small.
Yeah, you picked this in terms of overtaking was difficult.
It was great track from yesteryear, but the cars are too wide. The track was too small. Yep. I mean, Valtteri again got very unlucky, and Sir Lewis
shafted.
Sir Lewis got right. What a shame! What a shame!
It's a great go-kart track, but it's too small.
Yeah,
it's way too thin.
Yeah,
probably my favourite edition of the year was Bahrain too. To be perfectly honest, just
the big circle.
Yeah, just the big circle. It wasn't really a circle though, was it? And because
how quick was the lap?
Interesting racing, like 57,
52 seconds.
52. Yeah, it was just tumbling
Jeepers.
as the race went on.
Was it 3 laps to warm up the tyres?
Sad for George, obviously, and we've spoken about that at length. But it just shows that that's the better track, Bahrain. When we go back there as the second race of the year, please don't bother doing the middle bit. Let's just do the outside bit, if you don't mind.
Do you think they'll listen to us? No.
Well, I mean, somebody listens to us, don't they? Hi, Campy's dad.
Surely somebody.
Now,
just 23,000 of you last episode.
Just making up statistics.
Aren't all statistics better?
By Campy, yes. Most... obviously, this season was very much condensed. We had a little break in the middle, but really it was just bam, bam, bam. There's 2 heart-stopping moments I've picked out of the 2020 season that really come to mind. The first of which was the Mugello safety car restart. We've all seen onboards from Giovinazzi and Carlos Sainz. That was epic and pretty mega, wasn't it?
No, if those drivers had done what they should have done, and
they did what they were supposed to do. It was George, wasn't it, in the middle?
No, it was Valtteri holding everyone up at the front.
I think we decided it was Latifi who was trying to go, then not go, and then piled that last part of the cars up. And look, it was pretty mega though, wasn't it?
It was
our favourite Canadian. Yeah. Well, in that race, the other Canadian decided to crash into Kimi, didn't he, in qualifying or practice?
Yeah, that wasn't his fault though.
And Lando, but. The other one, of course, being Grosjean, right? And that was a mega moment. He has been more active on social media than ever since being out or coming out of Formula One, and it's really awesome to see. I think that...
Well, his stocks have never been higher than after that crash, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean, so great to that footage of him being dragged out. I mean, everyone was tired watching in Australia. You know, it's stupid o'clock in the morning if you'd stayed up to watch it, and people even getting up early in the morning to watch the race before going to work were seeing the end of it going, what is going on? That doesn't make sense. So they're 2 big heart-stopping moments of the year for me. Campy, did you have any other heart-stopping moments for the Formula One? No.
When Checo pitted to give Danny Rick his second podium, that was heart in my mouth because I thought, geez, I think Danny Rick's done another podium. I thought he'd blown it, if I'm 100% honest.
Yeah.
But worked out well, so that was my other.
Renault's strategy being an oxymoron yet again. Look forward to that, Nando.
Yeah.
Tommy T, any more heart-stopping moments for you?
I think just watching George potentially getting his first point is very exciting in the moment, and me flipping on our Discord between wanting it to happen and not wanting it to happen a lot.
I can assure you I was there live.
It saw me.
You wanted him to win, and then you were like, no, I don't want him to
I was
get
like,
it.
Win it. Nah, don't get a point.
No
nothing.
points, nothing. You deserve nothing.
But that in the moment was chaos. I don't know if it's heart stopping, but my heart was racing for that. It was a full on race. Just everything went wrong.
Again, Valtteri got shafted by his team once again.
What a surprise.
I think that's in his contract.
The other has to be, surely, otherwise I would just stay.
Surely.
And of course, Lewis Hamilton coming across the line with
no wonder
no
Lewis
air in
liked him.
his tyres, right? Remember that puncture in Silverstone?
Yes.
Where you don't even have
That
to
was
have
great.
that. Was
True.
like, oh, and poor Max, if he had.
Once again, Lewis got lucky and still won the race, didn't he?
He
How?
draws luck,
And-
this dude.
How?
Out of wherever. Anyway, well, let's go through all of the drivers and the teams, boys. Let's talk about them and their overall performance for the year, like we did for 2019, and we're talking about Carlos Sainz being the most improved. We'll get to that at the end, but let's start with Williams. Of course, they went from being owned by the Williams family, and now they're owned by some money people. They seem to do pretty well, really, didn't they? Doralton Capital, after they invested, Williams kept their nose clean, and everything seems to be good there. They seem to be going in a good direction, but they probably will stay at the back of the pack for some time. Tommy T, any thoughts on Williams overall this year?
I mean, not really in the Williams aspect, but like we did see some flashes from George, especially in that kind of opportunity in the Merc, but I think it's a good thing that he's going to be there at Williams. Like, that's positive. They're going to get really good data. They're only going to get better. I think they've got him as a good core to work around. How long he's going to be there, we don't know. He's contracted for another year, and who knows, new regs. He's probably going to move up towards the Merc, we would think. But it's better than it was looking last year. I think they've left off better than the end of last year, so that's got to be an improvement.
Campy, your thoughts on Williams?
I think they looked like they improved because of the poor Ferrari motor in the Sauber and the Haas. Sorry, the Alfa Romeo and the Haas.
You almost said AlphaTauri, didn't you, as well?
But I think
The other way.
they improved. They improved.
And
Good on
our
them.
favourite Canadian.
Real shame.
And
to
our
see.
favourite Canadian.
Oh, I think the saddest part was seeing Claire Williams go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I did a pretty nice tribute to her from memory.
Did you? Well, thank you,
I
sir.
genuinely want to see her back in the sport. I think she'll be back in the sport at some capacity in the future.
Yep.
She could race direct, maybe.
No, I think in hindsight, the decisions that she made post Paddy Lowe got that team in a trajectory to get back to being competitive. But unfortunately, she'll be defined by that decision of employing Paddy Lowe when she did,
And I
which
think
was
she's scapegoated pretty hard.
Totally, and it's a real shame because I think she's an asset to Formula One. Obviously, her dad's legacy. I don't remember her dad. I only started watching this sort of 10 years ago. So, for me, Claire's legacy in the sport will not go unforgotten, and I hope we see her back.
Yeah, nice. Haas had a pretty good year up until they announced Mazepin, didn't they, really? But K-Mag and Grosjean, well, people were still loving Haas when they're like, it's nice, warm, fuzzy feelings, even though you're really at the back of the grid. And especially after the Grosjean crash. Go on, Campy.
Kid, Haas. Oh, yeah, Grosjean, Magnussen.
It was instantly better because they didn't have like some lunatic sponsor
True.
overruling things. So that was a start. They didn't crash into each other as much, so that's a
They
positive.
did, race one.
Not as much, though, as last
Not as
year.
much.
Well,
Red Bull
2019.
ring, they
It was
crashed.
50% of races last year that crashed into each other, so that was an improvement this year.
Yeah.
But I think the general atmosphere at Haas seemed better, but with that junk motor in there, they were doing nothing this year, really, to be honest.
Yep.
Poor development for them. They suffered a lot too. Let's hope for 2022, because they're going to be rubbish this year as well, aren't they? That it's going to go in a good direction for them. Alfa Romeo, Kimi Räikkönen, of course, and Giovinazzi both staying around for this year. I'm still a little bit sad that the Alfa Romeo or the Sauber that Charles Leclerc was driving before his jump across the Ferrari and the switch with Kimi Räikkönen didn't remain really for last year for Kimi and for the year before, because man, he can drive the crap out of that car. Like, that is a really bad car, and he was pushing constantly with Seb towards the front. Giovinazzi had some glimpses as well, but overall Alfa Romeo just being Alfa Romeo, aren't they? They're not really. There's not a lot going on there.
Yeah, I think Gio's kind of on that trajectory of like he could stick around for a few years, but I don't think he's going much further than he is. I can't see him developing into the next thing. I don't know. I think he's kind of got Kvyat's trajectory is kind of the kindest way to put it. I think he could be that kind of... Maybe
more Marcus Ericsson kind of just hanging on into that team and then leaving when someone else comes up and takes his spot.
Bit of that kind of like middle. But we love Kimi, and fingers crossed that car is more competitive so we can see him, I don't know, with the tools to do something decent on a race day.
This is probably his last year though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will be. I don't think he'll go into the new...
I wouldn't have thought he'd... Yeah.
But in saying that, you got to remember, I think for the mid-pack anyway, the first half of 2019, Kimi was my driver of the year to that point, because some of the performances, some of where he put his car and the position he was on track was outstanding. The guy was quick. I think Gio had a better year than he did last year. But it was a shame to see because they had that piece of shit Ferrari engine in it. And we don't know how much they gained from 2019. We don't know how much... we know that they stopped development on that car halfway through 2019 for 2020, but we don't know how much they actually gained. And Haas is really the comparison for them, and they beat Haas, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah. Jump in with the what-if machine. What if Leclerc doesn't move when he does, and he's stuck in that car with Kimi instead of Gio, and they have the year they had last year and then they have the year this year? Do you think he actually moves up? Do you think he gets the opportunity? Or do you think he was right place, right time and just timed that jump to Ferrari perfectly? Because I don't think this car shows how good Gio could be or how good Kimi is. I think Leclerc literally just nailed the timing on that because he jumped ship at the perfect time to go up to the big team. Yeah,
well, you look at Marcus Ericsson's performance alongside him, he did very well. And he'd been around for a long time. It wasn't enough to hold on, but the car clearly was performing really well. Campy will tell you that's because it had a Ferrari motor in it that wasn't necessarily within regulations, and it is.
Cheating.
Is that what that word is? But 12 months, right place, right time, exactly right. I don't, because he's performing. He's performing really well in the Ferrari. He outdrove that car a lot this year or last year, I should say. But probably he'd still be there.
I'm not discrediting him as a driver. It's more just like I don't know if he would have gotten the opportunity when he did if that car wasn't as good as it was.
Yeah.
And I think if he had have suffered this drop-off, I don't know if he would have moved to the top team.
All right, so what if Marcus Ericsson had gone to the Ferrari instead of the Charles Leclerc and performed what Charles Leclerc did over the last 2 years?
I don't think Ericsson is as good. I don't think so.
No, they weren't as good. But Ericsson, again... 2 races out of 4, Ericsson was right on his tail pushing him and beat him.
Yeah.
It wasn't consistent like Leclerc was, but it was bloody close. But in saying that, you've got Pascal Verlaine that pantsed Ericsson, made him look rookie.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
It's the world.
This is the hardest sport for comparisons because they don't use the same equipment. And we talk about this a lot, but I think they've identified in Leclerc that talent to drive that precision Ferrari or a Red Bull or a Merc, which are pointier and all these kind of words that we talk about. The difference between the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull is that why Max can drive that and why Gasly couldn't. That kind of stuff. And they've identified that in Leclerc over Ericsson.
Yep.
But it's interesting because that Alfa Romeo has dropped off a cliff since that season with Leclerc.
Well, and so has Ferrari, and Haas. Haas, if you think back to 2019, they were pushing close in the Australia race. They were up. In 2018 too, but they forgot how to put wheels on the car.
Twice.
AlphaTauri, the only Italian team to win this year, which was great for Gasly. We spoke a little bit about Kvyat already, but Pierre Gasly obviously recovered off of his falling off a cliff last year in terms of leaving Red Bull. Turns out that was actually the right thing to do for his career and better for him than whether or not he stayed with being Alex Albon, which is a shame for Albon because we said this last year. He performed really well in the Toro Rosso, look at his performance in China, all that sort of other stuff. But Gasly continues. And obviously there's talk about him moving across to the French team, potentially to replace Ocon in a couple of years' time. Tommy T, your thoughts on AlphaTauri for 2020?
Good. I thought, Campy's pointed it out, but I think Kvyat was very unlucky a lot of the time with his points totals. I think it was like 75-25 in favour of Gasly, around that kind of zone. And I don't think that was indicative of how each driver drove. Gasly was very opportunistic, very risky strategies, waiting for safety cars that paid off. And I mean, full credit to him for doing that. But I don't know where I put Gasly, genuinely. I don't know him as a driver where he sits. I don't think he's at the level of a Hulk, but I think he is better than Kvyat. He's somewhere in between, and I don't know where he sits. Like, this is the B team, this is the junior team, so he's going to be a good measuring stick for drivers coming through, so it'll be very interesting to see how dominant he is over Tsunoda, because he will.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know if he's just kind of resigned to being that driver now. I don't think he's going to get back to that top team.
What's hard, isn't it? It's kind of difficult now to be thinking about, well, what is a top team come 2022? Because you've had, in the early thousands, Renault were champions and people like Mark Webber should have gone there. You've had Red Bull, you've had Ferrari and Mercedes and McLaren and all these other teams. And now you've got someone like Aston Martin who... Let me just open my whiskey.
Step on a duck.
Good on you, Campy. To do that. So it's sort of almost, who knows what's going to be next? Christmas. Looking at potentially Renault being, or Alpine being as good as they are. But interesting. Campy, whilst you pour yourself a whiskey and you admire your AlphaTauri coats hanging up next to your Minardi jacket in your closet next to you with a whole lot of other things, including skeletons. Anything else you'd like to mention?
Oh, I think Tommy said it right. They're the B team. I mean, Red Bull this year came out and said this is the sister team, and they weren't. They were nowhere near it. They were the seventh best car on the grid this year, and at times they performed. At times, their drivers put themselves in the right positions, and luck went their way. I think if they want to be the sister team, they're going to have to step up a lot this year. But, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to step up. I mean, you've got Racing Point that copied Mercedes from last year, so no wonder they were going to be quick.
But I think the sister team should have beaten that horrible Ferrari this year, and they couldn't in the constructors. Wow. I think if they could have done that, they would have proven a bit more sister team than junior team.
Well, knowing they've got the same engine as the top team, top team should put down some aerodynamics, some chassis, some fundamentally the same concepts of the car. Yep. And we're looking at two different race teams, right? But it's clear they're not the sister team because Red Bull, aerodynamically and chassis development-wise, didn't share the information like they would to a true sister team.
Yep.
I think it was a good marketing campaign from Red Bull, selling it as AlphaTauri, the new fashion line, whatever that is.
It was smooth over Gasly getting demoted.
Well, it's shit.
It's a sister team. No. Sister team. You're not getting demoted. You're just going sideways.
We have 4 drivers.
Sideways.
We've got 4 drivers in Red Bull. No, you don't, Karen.
Give me a break. You got one driver, Max Verstappen.
Yes, bud.
And he's off chasing skirt in places that he probably shouldn't be chasing.
At least he's chasing it within the Red Bull pool.
Yeah, I know.
Helmet would approve.
Yeah, he would. He's a snake, that guy. I don't know if I like Max as much anymore. It just looks weird, doesn't it? Anyway,
so weird.
We're not a tabloid. No. Max can shag whoever he wants to shag.
Especially as he's stepdad to Kvyat's child.
It's horrible, isn't it?
The Oz F1 magazine coming out this year. Well, Ferrari, of course, we mentioned this. Seb was a gentleman all year. He really just didn't have the car. We all think that it's sabotaged by Ferrari to really make him look bad.
Stops.
But still... He was a consummate professional. He even was a marshal. He was a strategist. He got a podium. Thank goodness. He really just Stephen Bradbury'd his way onto that, which made me love it even more.
He did.
And I even managed to Photoshop that as a promo thing, which there you go. But Leclerc, to his credit, thank you. To Leclerc, to his credit, drove the wheels off that car this year. And he probably, because he had all of the attention of all of Ferrari on his car and they'd ignored Seb. But it's going to be interesting next year compared to Carlos, but to his credit, did pretty well. Campy, your thoughts on Ferrari this year? Because you know that you love them, really.
Shambles. Absolute shambles.
Why are they a shambles? Who's responsible for that?
Matteo Binotto. And
Who isn't responsible?
I mean, they've had a reshuffle at the top end too. I can't remember the guy's name. It's eluding me at the moment, but they're
Shuffle president.
Their president was in Matteo Binotto's words, was putting pressure on them to develop the car in places that they shouldn't have been developing the car, i.e. cheating, without admitting they were cheating at the same time.
Never.
And Matteo Binotto, the snake, he's the only one left in the organisation. So, yeah, look. Anyway,
He went full red wedding, did he?
I hate Ferrari. I love it when they fail too. It's just awesome.
Great.
Tommy T,
awesome.
Ferrari for the year 2020?
Nah.
No, I think Ferrari, nah.
Ferrari, nah.
Nah.
I don't like the kind of fan who likes Ferrari. Like I don't like people who go for Boston or the Lakers in the NBA. You just jump in, you go, oh, that's a flashy red one. I'm going to go for that one. That's the one I've heard of.
What about the Bulls in the 90s?
It's nice to see them fail for once. Bulls in the 90s.
Is LeBron the GOAT, Tommy? That's the real question.
That's going to be Luka Doncic. Look out.
He's right. He's
Mate.
good. Is Luka better than Dirty Dirk Nowitzki, though? No.
Welcome
Stay
to
tuned for
Oz
Campy and my
NBA.
other podcast.
Sorry, Mark, we're encroaching on your
We
space.
talk
Old
about the greatest European
school
players
is
ever. Sidetrack.
Old school is better.
Campy living in the 90s.
It's nice to see Ferrari suffer a little bit for being useless and cheating and not taking it seriously and throwing money at things instead of actually being good.
They almost got their just
So
desserts,
hopefully-
didn't they?
It was. It felt like a little bit of that, but now it's pretty boring, and I'd rather see them be competitive because everyone needs a villain, and we want Ferrari there to beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause at the
when
moment
they
we've
do when they do get a good car,
Oh.
Carlos Sainz going to spank Charles Leclerc like the child he is. It's going to be good to watch.
Yeah, we're behind. I
love
think we're
that.
secretly a bit in love with Carlos
Oh, I
and
like
just
him.
want
He's a
him
very
to
funny
succeed
guy.
no matter where he goes. Yeah, man,
Yes.
I think so. Well, he left Renault in a pretty good state for Danny Rick, but Danny Rick has left it even better. Again, the reason why they are ahead of Ferrari is because of him, to be honest, and his
'Cause Ocon did
consistency.
nothing.
Ocon's like, I got a second. Well, no one cares, mate, because you're not going to be
'Cause
driving
you
for
did
Renault in
nothing all year.
2022. Don't worry
Well,
about
he's
it.
French. They teach them to surrender young over there.
Shout out
hold
if you're
their
listening
hands
to
while they're
France.
learning to walk.
That is 1/3 of the opinion of Oz F1. Love the south of
It's your
France.
opinion.
I feel like
No, I
Campy's
love
is more than
south
a
of
third,
France.
let's be honest.
Proposed to my wife in the south of France. I'm all about it. But Renault, now Alpine. Don't forget it's
Gone
Alpine.
to Italy or
Alpine.
something.
Can you pronounce that properly,
Or
Campy?
are they
Campy,
broke?
what are they called this year?
Campy, what are they called next year?
Alpine.
Sounds gross when you say it.
The name sounds gross in its bloody.
Just keep calling them Renault, please. For the love of
Oh,
God.
jeez, we're a pack of 3-year-olds here at primary school laughing at dick jokes. Jokes on you, Renault.
They could have just left it Renault. Everyone, no one gives a crap.
Just
No
call
one
it
cares.
Aldic or something. It'll be more transparent. Oh, that's horrible. Yeah, it's been a long year.
It's only the 5th of January.
Hagrid's whiskey, boys.
Apparently,
Yeah,
very good for
very
you.
great, a lot. So Renault, look, Alpine, Fernando inheriting a good team as a result of Danny Rick, but I think you're right. I think Danny Rick's probably better out of the car in terms of pulling the team around than Fernando. We saw Fernando really piss off Honda in his time in GP2 engine and McLaren, so he's clearly capable of pissing people
he's-
off.
He's good. He's good. Look what he did with McLaren. He got them back on.
It does sound, though, like it is a different kind of car to drive from what we've heard from Danny and what we've heard from Ocon. It's like, it's good, but it's a different style. It's very French, maybe. It's just different.
Different.
2CV.
I think they've finally figured out the
Gives up.
braking.
Yeah. Well,
Danny was
Danny
struggling
Rick-
with the braking early
Yes.
2019.
Yep.
It seems like they finally have come to the party through probably a lot of data, a lot of coaching through him and like what he wanted, how to improve the car, those kind of things. So it seems like they're on the right track right in time for new regs to come in.
Found a lot of rear end downforce as well.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like that was, and we saw it. Those were the tracks that they were better at was low downforce. Let's go. Let's put this motor to you. So at least they've got a good power unit there. Hopefully
But
they can come to the party on aerodynamics and
Renault ticked the boxes this year. If you look at their trajectory since
Yep.
they come back into the sport, they haven't won a world championship yet, but Danny Rick said there, 2019 is not our year. 2020 will be fighting for the podium. and it wasn't a fluke podium. They got 3 podiums this year, and they probably should have got a couple more if things had gone their way. But everything they got outside of Ocon's, I mean, Danny Rick would have got the podium if the luck had changed around. Just track position and where they were in their stints at the time. But, they genuinely had 3 podiums with a chance of getting more, which means they're consistently fighting at the front, which is what's been Renault's MO for the last 3 or 4 years. This is the trajectory that they're putting themselves at. Next year, they said it's going to be the year that they should be fighting for wins, not necessarily world championships. I can't see that happening this year. But 2023, they're probably the team that's primed because them and McLaren, they've got their budgets right on where they need to be, and what they're spending at the moment is what they're going to be spending in 2022 and beyond. So, it's a good. I think Danny Rick, he has left that team in a position far better than any other team Fernando's ever walked into, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Probably outside of his 05-06 World
Better than
Championships,
Nando leaves teams, that's for sure.
Although Carlos and Lando did a better job as a result of Nando leaving, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah, but Nando, he's had some big walkouts on teams, particularly with McLaren the first time and Renault the first time. But Ferrari, it's typical for Ferrari when they left him.
Yeah, they left him.
Let's talk about Racing Point. Sergio Perez now confirmed, thank goodness, for a seat, should say, for this year. Man, can't even speak English today. But of course, Aston Martin now, they're looking pretty sexy, their colours for this year. But thank goodness.
Camo green livery, camo clean. Can I hear it?
Only if you suck that microphone more.
Only for testing. They'll just tease us like Red Bull do, and then they won't do it.
Yeah, that camo Red Bull looked schmick.
They do it every time.
But lucky Racing Point had Checo to jump Renault, really, because Stroll wasn't there performing consistently enough to gain all of those points. Perez, the best part of the year.
What did Otmar say? He got that drive on merit for next year.
Did he?
On merit.
Did he?
How is the Kool-Aid, Otmar? Tell me.
Poisoned? You got a lot of questions to answer. Probably not in Melbourne this year. Probably Melbourne 2022, but we'll get to that.
We were high on Otmar at the start of the year.
Yeah.
He's steadily dropped throughout this year because of the bull crap coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And he doesn't call it as it is.
Yeah, he's not being a team principal.
If it wasn't for Lance Stroll, he'd be the perfect team principal.
Genuinely, yeah. But he's just a bought man now. He has to just play the game.
I mean, you also have to think from his point of view, he was there through the whole thing falling apart.
Yeah.
And he and Checo worked really closely together to hold it. Yeah. So he wasn't the team principal.
He was like the
GM kind of thing, and because VJ was like this amazing team principal and he was more the race director, right? And he sort of just stood up into that role, and therefore he has remained. I don't think he's ever taken it to like the Zach Brown level of being the team principal and being able to step back and let it all happen. But anyway, it is what it is. But Racing Point did well this year. They finished ahead of Renault.
Cheated. You'd hope so.
Just behind McLaren.
They lost their points. They still won.
Yeah, they still won. They got penalised. They still beat Renault. Like, seriously.
It's like James says. He's like, jump the start in the F1 game, and then it's
10-second penalty doesn't matter if you're 20 seconds ahead.
James also doesn't have a conscience.
Yeah, that's true. That's on my bio too. If you look at my Instagram profile, no conscience. But Racing Point, fantastic that they had them, and also great that they brought in Hulk, because that's the best thing they did this year. Lance Stroll confirmed for next year the worst thing. McLaren though, McLaren. This team, I am so excited for this year. I was very happy with Lando's performance. He's obviously not as good as Carlos, and that's fine because he's learning and they're driving really well. They were a really good team this year, and Sainz really did very, very well. Again, he even, I think, improved on his 2019 performance, and really close to winning in Monza. If it was one lap more, Gasly wouldn't have got it, and Carlos would have jumped him, which is it's sad, but Danny Rick can get that first from McLaren.
Look, that's not real. Gasly would have won it if there was 3 laps more. Gasly had 15 laps to close that 2-second gap, and he didn't do it. So, sorry, Sainz.
Sainz is good. Yeah. All right.
Sainz had.
Good point. Anyway, but McLaren overall, though, finishing third in the championship, huge for them.
Consistent.
If you can consider where we were talking about Nando and Stoffel a couple of years ago, Nando wouldn't have left the sport if he knew this is the direction. But Campy, thoughts on McLaren for last year?
Yeah. Zach Brown, Andreas Seidel.
Dream team.
Superstars in my
James
book.
Key.
they got Danny Rick next year. Danny Rick's going to make Lando look second rate. There's going to be a lot of banter.
Yeah,
And I think actually the banter will stop pretty quickly when Lando's going, oh shit, I'm in my third season of F1 now, and this is the third year on the trot where I'm being beaten by my teammate.
It's going to look worse. Yeah.
I think Danny Rick. I think he's gonna have a bit of a fight on his hands in qualifying, but I think he's better than Lando in every aspect. I think Danny Rick comes in this primed as a world championship caliber driver, and he's now got the team, and they just need to wait another year. I don't think it's this year, but I think 2022 is going to be their year.
Do you reckon there's a race win in there for McLaren next year with a new motor?
Well, I think there's consistent podiums every week. They'll be challenging for podiums.
Yep.
It will be hell of a lot harder for a podium this year with Max and Checo as the 3 and 4 drivers. I think McLaren will be the 5th and 6th. So, I mean, they're going to be fighting for it every week. I think race pace is going to be quite similar. It'll be qualifying that'll be Achilles heel this year.
It'll be interesting to see how the car compares to the Renault for Danny Rick in terms of how quickly he settles into it. I kind of have a feeling that it's going to be more towards his style than what the Renault was when he first jumped into that. And hopefully, instead of going from like a car that everyone's like, oh, it's a great car, Red Bull 2018 into Renault 2019 is a step back, is this McLaren is a step forward now for him, so he can feel more confident in that space.
McLaren do have some issues for this year in their upgrades. They've got a certain amount of points allocated because we've extended the regs 1 extra year. There's development points that are going on at the moment. Now, McLaren are hindered by that because they're changing engine manufacturers, so they don't have a lot of upgrade points for other areas. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did 3 or 4 races for, first month, 2 months or so, then turned around and said, right, we've learned enough about this car, we've got enough data on it, we're concentrating solely on 2022.
Yep. And I wouldn't be upset by that, to be perfectly honest.
No, I wouldn't either. I mean, next year's a limbo year.
Yeah.
We should have been going into new regs this year.
Which would have been
regardless
amazing.
of the pandemic and all the shit.
Made more sense to push it ahead.
At
really.
the time it did, but they were saying 350 million people worldwide were going to die. So, I mean, that was all bullshit, wasn't it?
Get it in there. But yes, you're right. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Barcelona is for them, because if the power unit does make a significant difference, which it shouldn't really, I mean, the Renault, it was a quick car, right? You down the straight. Often Danny Rick was topping those charts. So it'll be interesting, but it's the overall package we're looking for. And we know that Danny Rick's race pace, or his racecraft rather, is a lot better than a lot of the drivers around him, potentially even better than Checo. So it will be really good in my mind to be seeing...
It's damn better than
But
Checo.
I mean, though, in a Red Bull, being up towards the front, so he should be pressuring. And hopefully we see him in some podiums. And
if we've got him in some wheel-to-wheel with Max, that is my year, mate.
Amazing. All right, well, let's talk about Red Bull. Max Verstappen, great job until he posted his thing, didn't he? For the Oz F1 magazine, we now cross live to the studio to Thomas J. Camp to tell us more about Max Verstappen and his love life.
We're not tabloid. I don't talk about that shit. Just,
only off there. I'm kidding. Max though.
Just looks Max, mate. What are you doing?
3.8 billion women in the
you
world.
are look inside. He's an angry He's an angry looking Dutchman. So not sure he'd get much
wrong with
anyway.
that?
But,
there it is.
well, he's loaded, but.
There's no one on this podcast with any Dutch connections, is there?
Yeah, my missus is Dutch.
I'm Dutch.
Yeah, I was going to say Tommy's Dutch.
Oh, you tired ass. You owe me around from 3 weeks ago. The Dutch will laugh about that. They can laugh at themselves. I can confirm. They're a bit too serious. But anyway, look, Red Bull.
Red Bull. Do go on, Karen Campy.
It was another year for them. Another year. No, I mean that in the sense it was just another year where they rocked up and raced.
Magnificent
They had
insight,
some good
Oz F1.
They rocked up, they raced, they had some results, but they weren't Mercedes, and that's what they've been trying to be for 7 years.
Yeah, so
and
true.
They failed yet again.
Yes.
In this week's
Next
podcast,
year-
Campy says Red Bull are not Mercedes, and that was a year for them. Put that on the Instagram.
That's the quotable quote
That's the
for
quote.
2020.
Well, it's actually common sense, and it's actually right.
Here we go.
He's right. You're right.
Puts
I know
foot
what you
down.
mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
know
for
what
sure.
you mean.
I mean,
They failed again this year.
they did. It was, and
You know what they failed about is keeping Albon much longer than they could have. If you look at their points totals, it's literally only Max contributing to them. Imagine if they had a secondary driver. They
What
could
did
have been competing.
What did Albon come in the driver standings?
Oh, I can pull it up. Keep talking and I'll give it to you in a sec.
Not anywhere as
I
close as he should
imagine
have done.
it was probably 7th or 8th. Look,
Albon was 7th.
7th, yeah, right. There you go.
Equal on 105 with Carlos Sainz.
Oh, what a dud. What an absolute dud.
So true. Sad though for Red Bull as a whole, because they really should be challenging towards the front, right? So the fact that they could make a decision and they were haunted by their indecision and poor decision from the year before really struck them down for this year. But Checo is a great driver. We saw his performances this year. He's consistent. He's clever. He knows how to get up on drivers and give them enough space. And that's the other thing. Like he's a very respectful driver, and that will benefit Red Bull. If something happens to Max with Honda power reliability or something, he should be there to take first, second, third, fourth, whatever it ends up being. And Albon just wasn't doing it.
One thing for me is having a second driver that's actually going to be in the same pack and race with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Max was racing by himself against those Mercedes all year and could do nothing. He was so vulnerable because they'd just gang up on him and go, we're going to out-strategy you and you're done for.
Yep,
You
absolutely.
literally can't work your way out of this, mate. There is no move here because we've got you covered. Just having another car in that battle is going to be so helpful for Max because Albon provided no help whatsoever. So, yes, you can see the point differences, but it doesn't tell the whole story because Max had no help. So he could have done even better by just having another chess move to play here or throw Checo there is actually going to be very helpful strategy-wise.
Yeah.
Rear gunner. That's what
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure. For sure.
Exactly.
But it'll be good to see what they do next year in that respect. Mercedes obviously dominating again. Boring. Slight yawn. Valtteri Bottas really just didn't do himself any favours this year, though, did he?
Oh, his luck was horrible this year.
Talk to us about next year, Campy. How much points has he got built up? Have you got a tally?
Yeah, there has to be for the 2021 Valtteri Bottas Lucky Dip Prize.
You
which
were
hopefully
telling
means
it
he
every
wins.
week how many lucky points he was earning for next year, weren't you?
Well, it's not just lucky points that'll go his way. It's Lewis Hamilton at some stage has to have shit not go his way.
Well, firstly, he has to actually have a contract for 2021, and he doesn't even have that yet. Sorry, Sir Lewis Hamilton. Sorry, yes.
Sir Lewis,
He doesn't
Sir
even have a
Lewis.
contract yet.
Well, he's going to be driving. Don't worry about that. It's just
Can you
that-
imagine if he didn't?
DTM and
Stop
Albon's
out.
driving for Mercedes. There it is.
God. No, look, he'll be racing. Look, I don't think. Look, I don't want to cover this topic yet. I don't think we'll have a Melbourne race this year. But what is interesting to me is that throughout this whole turbo hybrid era is that Lewis Hamilton still hasn't won Melbourne since 2014. And he wants it badly. He's dominated for the better part of 7 years in qualifying this track, and every year something's gone wrong. I think if he wins Melbourne this year, he loses the championship. But in saying that, I don't think we get a Melbourne Grand Prix, which we can talk about in a minute. But odds on this year, I think Bottas wins the world championship. I think
he
it'll
has
be really
to.
close. I think it's just like there's something in me. I can't see Lewis winning it again, and it's going to be a bit like the Rosberg v Hamilton in 2016. I just can't see Hamilton winning again, and it's going to do wonders for my sanity if I look at the bad luck that Bottas has had, not just this year, but throughout his whole career in Mercedes. And the reason why they keep him on, if things had gone his way, I mean, he's had punches when he's in the leader bucket and lost. I mean, it's
Imola, he ran
staggering.
over that bit of Ferrari or whatever it was. Like, just-
Staggering how much bad luck this guy's had this year and in previous years.
Poor bloke.
It's got to come right for him at some stage, and I think he gets the job done this year.
And he's our second Australian rather on the grid.
Yeah.
It's true.
So, we're all behind you, VB. So Lewis
And
Hamilton obviously smashing it out of the park. Sorry, Campy, go one more thing about VB.
Oh, he's a Finn. We love the Finns.
Oh, of course we do. Yeah,
Great
100%.
race of human beings, the Finns.
I wonder if he's doing any rallying at the moment to get
Cannot
him.
speak any higher of that human being.
Is that why you're wearing a beanie all the time? Because you wish you were in Finland right now?
Si's growing his beard out.
I've got a
Campy's just stepped out of the sauna before this podcast.
If you're not watching us on YouTube,
got a pretty
well
bad
done, but he looks like a
receding like Tommy T. So,
This bad?
no, it's just room for sponsorship.
Worse.
If you're interested in sponsoring Campy or Tommy T's foreheads,
Actually,
you,
let's do this.
very cheap rates. Very cheap rates. Campy, if you can talk to VB. Sorry, if VB wants to talk to you about that.
I don't like sports bets, so they can nick off. I don't like them. I'm ruling them out.
Okay, so no gambling, just VB. Or if
Victoria
you're feeling
Bitter?
a bit fancy, MB, Melbourne Bitter.
MB.
You're going there. Yeah. All right. Well, look, that's the review of the teams. It's going to be interesting for this year. Obviously, we've got name changes happening with Aston Martin taking over from Racing Point and Alpine taking over from Renault. I wonder if DP World's going to stay as a major sponsor. Surely. I love that it took you like half a year to figure out that. So it's like, hang on a second, who's sponsoring Renault?
That's the best text message I've ever sent to you, Jim. I'm scared to Google it.
If you don't know what we're talking about, don't Google us.
No.
But I thought...
Can we talk about Melbourne?
Yeah,
We've had some news come out today.
All right,
Yeah.
Campy, take us through what the socialist government's doing down there.
Well, look, we've had some newspaper articles today about the Melbourne Grand Prix in March weekend of the 20th. It's going to be postponed, and we're not going to have it.
Big sad face.
Well, look, here's my issue. F1 this year has proved that they can go internationally, intercontinentally, and have a protocol that works, which keeps all the staff, team members, everybody, the whole entourage, film crew, and everybody that comes with it, COVID safe and clear. Whatever that looks like, I think the whole thing's horse shit anyway. But, sorry, I don't think the virus is not real, but I think the response to it has been horse shit throughout the whole world. In saying that, F1 has proved that they can do it right. If we know anything about our government where we live, and I would hate to make political statements on this podcast,
would you?
but our
hate that?
Victorian Labor
Terrible.
government are full of fuckwits. And this year they have shown that they don't care about any reason, any rationale, anything, any other opinion other than their own, and they'll rule with an iron fist. We've had the Australian Open Tennis, which is in Melbourne as well, postponed. I guarantee you it's going to be cancelled. Currently as we speak, we've got 18 confirmed cases, and all those cases are in quarantine, and they're going to be there for the next 14 days. So
They came from New South Wales, James.
Yes, you're
Yeah, they
welcome.
came from up your way. In saying all
And we're
that,
still
we've just come off 60 days of zero transmissions in a relatively normal holiday period.
Yeah.
But the cost to our economy has been huge. For our government, they will rule with an iron fist, and they will deny F1 coming in, even though as a sport they've proved that they can do all the right things.
Do it properly, yeah.
Regarding the spread of, but they'll rule with an iron fist and say, no, we know better, we're going to do it, and they're going to fuck our economy even more than it has been globally for our sport. February, March for Melbourne, we are the city of sports lovers throughout the world. We've got so many professional sporting teams in events. February and March is the big thing, and December too. We've got the Boxing Day test. We've got the Grand Prix. We've got the tennis. We've got the AFL starting that weekend. For you guys, those guys who don't know what it is, we've got 10 professional sporting teams on one code, here in our state, which launches at the same time. Sport is inbuilt in our DNA. For our government, they will throw this away. If we're having conversations now and about something that's going to happen 3 months' time, it's all over. It's not going to happen.
Sydney Motorsport Park.
Absolutely, bring in New South Wales.
So it should, because of their dickhead people that are making decisions now. I'll rage because our dickhead state actually elected them in the first place. But
How good is
it's
New
a
South
real
Wales?
shame. It's a real shame that we're going to miss out on our Grand Prix this year.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My fear too is we're starting to talk like umming and ahhing about it now. It just definitely means it's like, too hard basket. Let's start in Bahrain. And it's sad because you know, as you say, if Lewis was to win, then potentially that could throw the whole thing upside down. Or Danny Rick gets on the podium for his first Grand Prix with McLaren, I should say, reminiscent maybe of Webber and Minardi, like taking over the podium, even though he didn't get on the podium. But, that kind of attitude, like we love it. And our whole thing about Oz F1, the reason we started this was to spread the love of Formula One more within Australia. And you can't do that easily. Not just to bitch about politics, but you can't do that easily without a race here. And I think it's sad. And it sucks. Like, this is the spiritual start, in my mind, of Formula One, and the spiritual 100%. End is in Brazil.
Oh, yep.
So that sucks a lot. But we'll see. Hopefully we will be recording some other content for this year, and I just
big
hope.
Year for Oz F1.
I hope Melbourne is a thing, because
big year for the boys.
I gotta tell you, you're gonna love Melbourne if we get the ability to get along to the race. But anyway, let's before we talk about that, let's talk about the rest of 2020. I wanted to hear your 3 top moments from the Formula One season of 2020. Campy, take it away.
Danny Rick's first and second podium.
Love it.
Amazing. The race at Mugello was incredible for me. I'm just going back to my notes. And Checo's win. Was pretty special too.
Yeah, it was pretty epic. Tommy T, your top 3 moments?
I was a fan of all of the Hulk comebacks.
Yes, Hulk and back.
Especially the late call-ups where he rolled up in Rosberg's dad's Porsche that he's repainted. The very, very last minute call-ups. Just outstanding from Hulk to come back on such short notice and perform as well as he did. We know how hard it is to be physically fit to be a Formula One driver, and for him to do that out of nowhere is insane. Probably watching George get a point, not get a point, get a point, not get a point for that whole race was very entertaining.
You were hilarious, yeah.
And then probably all the Max off the track stuff. He was probably one of the funniest, I reckon.
Which stuff?
Him.
Is that One Magazine?
Not that stuff. Him clapping back at people. Him.
Stepdad Max.
Max's one-liners. Him kicking walls. Him just being Max. He's kind of just. He's kind of hit this level of like, I'm bloody good at what I do. I'm going to relax a bit and loosen up. And we get to see Max. And
it's kind of like, I'm waiting for you, Red Bull, to catch up to me. It's not, I don't have to prove myself to you anymore.
Time.
You have to prove yourself to me, which is a big attitude shift.
Yeah. Yep. And I really appreciated that. I mean, that's why we love Kimmy. That's exactly the reason we love Kimmy. So if we can get a bit more of that out of Max, I'll be very happy.
Yeah. Yep. And your 4, let's give you 4 because you've got 4.
I had another one, and it's just Spa. And then Campy's written in the notes, yeah, dog, afterwards. I just love Spa.
It's a great racetrack.
It's just the best.
What country is it in, Tommy?
Pretty sure it's Belgium.
Oh, very well.
Campy's renowned for mixing up his rings. He doesn't know where the Red Bull ring and where the Hungaro ring is.
I get confused between them, all right? Just leave me alone, guys.
He doesn't know which ring's which ring. And then we had the Nürburgring and he got extra confused. He's like, are we going back?
I don't understand.
Look, you the fans, you've come on a journey with me about sounding more intelligent. I can assure you that in my head I'm not very...
We're going to rebrand in 2021. There's discussions about rebranding to The Camp Show. Featuring...
I had a different one, and the acronym was POS.
What's that?
Yeah, maybe we'll release that as a second channel.
Piece of shit.
That's just naming you, isn't it? Well, my top 3 moments for the year were DR's first podium and then him forgetting to do a shoey.
Oh, man.
And then him in the caravan afterwards going, forgot to do a shoey. So
I stayed up half an hour later than I wanted to after that. Like, come on. Oh.
I really enjoyed scenario 7 for last lap Lando and with Lewis's penalty, him getting onto the podium for 3rd, and just McLaren as a whole, like him and Zach Brown, like, hugging it out. That was awesome because for me it was like, yes, that's where Danny Rick's going. That's fantastic for the year.
McLaren with the most after the bell podiums.
Yes, seriously. And then celebrating the Monza second for Carlos Sainz, Lando smashing the bottle of Prosecco and cutting his hand open. And Carlos taking his bottle of winning champagne going, don't you touch this anymore. My favourite moments of the year. But look, 2021, hopefully we get a full calendar. It's supposed to be 23 races. There might only be 22 or 21 if TBC doesn't come online, and Melbourne, if that even ends up happening. Hopefully it does. But of course, 2021 is a big year for Oz F1. We promised you at the end of last year more content was coming out, and that is the case. This will be the last podcast you see in this Zoom format. We're going to do something more exciting. So thanks for joining us on the journey. If you've left us a review, specifically the person who last left us a review.
No.
I'm not even going to read it out. If you're interested in Australia, you can read it
Campy fan club
on the Apple Podcast just to read that most recent review. Loved that. That was my favourite review of the year.
Are you going red, Campy?
I'm going red. That was for you fans out there. That is a very grim comment. And I have a girlfriend, I intend on marrying her.
As you lean in.
Hang on,
is that
Is that an online proposal?
Welcome to Oz F1 2021, the online marriage proposal service for hosts. Allegedly.
Just saying, I've got no dirt on my back when it comes to that shit.
What's in your hand, though?
It's like a big pink doobie or something. What have you got there?
You've been to Fish Week. You've been to Fish Week, mate.
I'm nervous. I've been twitching and... No, it's my cloth to clean the screen and stuff.
Oh, great. Well, at least you've been doing that the whole way through.
You bringing up that comment's made me nervous. I haven't even done anything wrong when I'm nervous.
I love that. Hey, boys, though, I'm looking forward to this year. It's going to be kick-ass. And honestly, thanks for your comments. Thanks for reaching out to us on all the platforms, on Discord, messaging us on Instagram or on Facebook or emailing me. We've really loved it. 2021 is going to be a big year for us. So thanks for joining us on the Oz F1 journey. Boys, I can't wait for the rest of this year as we do our next thing. Thanks for joining us for this recap podcast of the entire 2020. And we'll see you as we start talking about 2021.